We are very happy today on this evening, on this Monday evening, unusually, to have Dennis Fries with us. Dennis is research coordinator at the DIID, the Düsseldorf Institute for Democracy Research, and is therefore excellently placed with what he is doing, the research that he's doing and that he's already also done in the past to give us this lecture. Dennis is coordinator at the DIID. Previously, he was research coordinator at the Nordrhein-Westfalen Research College on Public Deliberation. I hope I got that reasonably right. And studied law, social sciences and communication science at the University of Erfurt first, and then in the University of Düsseldorf, where he also completed his PhD on online deliberation in 2020. So we're very excited to have Dennis with us, and he's already been today during a workshop that we had with colleagues from the University of Düsseldorf, a real boon to our research, and has really helped us to explore research in the ComAI research project P6 on online deliberation. So we're very excited to have you with us, and the title of his talk is AI within public online discourse, a topic that obviously has a lot to say to all of our different individual research projects. So yeah, Dennis, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. I recently saw a video on YouTube about giving speeches, and the guy in the video told that probably worst thing that you can do at the beginning of a speech is to introduce yourself and what you're talking about, because usually this is written in the program or you have been introduced by the host anyway. And he recommend that a good speech should be like a story, and therefore should start with the well-known words once upon a time in order to catch the audience in a child that would seek to listen to exciting stories. So I would try that at the beginning. So once upon a time, about 5 years ago, there was a more or less young scholar named Dennis, and he has just finished his PhD on online deliberation. And he was both enthusiastic, but also a little bit disoriented. What's next, what he should do. And it came to pass that the beautiful Professor Gerd Fove sent him an email if he would like to join a group of foolhardy scholars that want to solve the mystery whether AI can support human decision-making. This band of scholars you can see here, it was quite huge and organized in 4 different use cases from medicine, economics, law and philosophy and politics. And the patronizing king named Jürgen Manchot supported the group very generously, and so the young scholar Dennis ended up in joining the political use case, where he was curious about to find an answer to the question whether AI can support online deliberation. So this was where the journey began, and where all the 3 projects I'm going to talk about today or tonight have their origins. But in any good story, there's usually not only one hero. And if so, this would probably not be me. So before I start, I want to give some credits and some recognition to some colleagues that were more or less involved in these 3 projects. Maike Behrendt is from our computer science department, and she was mainly concerned with the AI tools that we are programming. She was also be part of the workshop today. Jonas Carstens from the philosophy department, which nudged me to my first and probably only paper on AI and ethics. I will talk about this later. Juliane Feustel, which is the best secretary you could ask for. Ole Kelm and Mark Ziegler, some of them may know them. They worked with me together on a survey study on AI perceptions by users. Anna Lindstedt, who worked as a study assistant throughout the whole time. Mira Vanet, who did an outstanding job on the review study I'm going to present in a minute. And last but not least, Karina Weimann, who was also worked with me on the review and was a direct colleague in the project. So since all the protagonists have been introduced sufficiently, I can continue my story, which will from now on switch a little bit more to the academic talk mode. So today I want to talk about 3 perspectives and that are important for the topic of AI within online discourse. The first is a scientific perspective, mapping the research landscape on AI and deliberation, and I will do this by introducing a review study that we conducted at the beginning of our research project, which has now already been outdated because data is from 2022, which is kind of long time for AI research. Secondly, I want to bring light to the questions what users think about when AI intervenes in online discussion by presenting a survey study, also from spring 22. And finally, I want to talk about ethical implications that are on hand when AI interferes in online discussions. So these perspectives represent 3 studies. I was mainly involved during my time at the research project. I must say that I have left the project after only 1 year because I got appointed for a permanent position at the DID. And so some of the findings I present have never been published. Others have been just published recently or waiting for it. So that's unfortunate, but that's sometimes the case, and science is what happens when you're making other plans. So let me start with with the review study and some brief remarks about the starting point of this research. So back in the days, there were theoretically inspired hopes that the internet could provide an infrastructure for deliberation or for public spheres where deliberation could emerge. Against the backdrop of evidence of more than 3 decades of empirical research, we must say this idea was probably a bit of naive, and the internet is far away from being a public sphere for deliberation. We know that online discussions are not deliberative, and they often lack in terms of rationality, of reciprocity, and that people are not accessing online publics equally. We also know that incivility is a very prevalent and problematic phenomenon in the internet, and that it can cause massive problems for people that are in contact with that. So what did we do about it? We seen laws like the Netzwerkdurchsetzungsgesetz, for example. We see increasing efforts in moderation ranging from actors on media organizations, but also civil society actors that try to collectively moderate or intervene in online publics. And the latest fashion is, and that's where we start, the use of artificial intelligence in order to tackle human stupidity online. So against this backdrop, we want to find out at the very start of our research project what's out there already in science. And we did this by doing a systematic literature review on AI in online discussions. Why deliberation? Well, the concept is quite dominant in the research field of online discussions, and it's also prominent in the broader topic on digital democracy. Secondly, I personally kind of liked the concept. I was familiar with it, and that was something I could bring to this use case, and therefore we wanted to use the normative standards that arise from deliberative theory in order to evaluate existing AI research. So the question we addressed was which dimensions of deliberation are addressed by current AI research, and in order to do so, we conducted a review of more than 117 articles that have been focusing on AI in online discussions. The problem here was that most of the literature does not mention the theoretical concept of deliberation explicitly. So our challenge, but probably also our contribution, was to interpret the literature in that way, using 4 key dimensions of deliberation, namely equality, civility, rationality, and reciprocity. For those of you that are familiar with the concept of deliberation, they may raise concerns that this is a little bit under complex, and that deliberation is much more than those 4 dimensions, and I totally agree. However, in this case, the complexity has to be lost in translation in order to get a rough overview of what's out there. But this limitation we should have in mind, and we can discuss this also later. So what did we found? What was the focus of AI research until 2022? As you can see in this chart, most of the research has focused on the dimension of rationality. The main aim of AI seems to make online discussions clearer and therefore also more accessible, but also to make arguments and different argument structures more salient. We also have a fair amount of civility research. Here AI is used to detect toxic content or hate speech. Much less of the studies we reviewed is interested in the concept or the dimension of equality and reciprocity. I want to dive a little bit deeper in some of the dimensions we have looked on. When we look at rationality, we can see a very strong focus on argument mining. A lot of work is about making arguments more clearer and better structured. Some researchers have worked on automatically identifying discussion topics so that you can easily figure out what's going on in big debates. Others have focused on summarizing discussions automatically so that you don't have to read to all the long threads and that you can find an easier entrance. But there are also some papers that did research on chatbots that had to moderate conversations, like the bot tries to step in and make things more constructive. And finally, there are tools that try to visualize certain argument structures so that different viewpoints are more salient. All in all, it's about making online discussions more argumentative or rational, easier to follow, and hopefully, therefore, more productive and structured. So let's zoom into civility. When we look at this dimension, 34 studies in our review, they focus mostly on automatic detection of hate speech. Different aspects of incivility are on hand here. Hate speech is one, but also sarcasm or cyberbullying. And there are also some models that try to combine different aspects of incivility to have a more comprehensive concept. But it's just about detecting what's already there. It's also sometimes about predicting antisocial behavior in advance so that an AI can, for example, also automatically try to cool down discussions, or some studies also have experimented with automated counter speech. So while the focus and the methods are different here, we must say that this line of research has made huge progress in recent years, and that they already show potential to support healthier and more civil discussions. The last dimension I want to recognize here is reciprocity. Compared to rationality and civility, we must say that much less research is focusing on reciprocity, which means that people are having meaningful interactions with each other. I think from a theoretical point of view, this is actually a very, very important dimension. We maybe can talk about this a little bit later. And it's somehow surprising that so less research is focusing on this. Still, some promising ideas are present. For example, some work looks at whether users' posts respond to each other, and if there are some kind of markers that make it more likely that your comment gets responses. Other approaches go a step further, using bots to actively encourage users to refer to others' contributions in order to boost interactions. And there are also studies that confront users with opposing viewpoints selected by algorithms, also with the goal to boost their responsiveness. So while this area is still developing, we see some promising attempts, and if someone is looking for a topic which is not well researched yet, you maybe go for reciprocity in online discussions. Now I want to switch to the next perspective, the user perspective. So what do people think about AI that comes into online discussions? This is a still unpublished study I conducted together with Mark Ziegler and Ole Kelm in a so-called research seminar with bachelor students. And I also want to start here with some brief remarks of the starting point. As a matter of fact, we can say that online publics have become increasingly relevant. This relevance arises from at least two observations. First, we know from empirical studies that roughly 60% in Germany see online or read online user comments attached to news articles, much less comment on them. And secondly, we can see that media is monitoring those publics, for example, on X or other social media channels. and thus they attribute some sort of relevance to them, which is also an interesting topic if this is always the smartest way. They also attribute that the bad quality of communication in online publics has negative effects, and that the toxic quality can have numerous negative effects is also something that we can say against the background of empirical research in our field. So in order to improve or restore the quality of online discussions, AI is already in place. You all may have witnessed the speech of Mark Zuckerberg when they say that they want to stop all the AI filters to detect harmful content. However, so far we know actually much little about how people perceive those kind of interventions, which are not trivial from a normative point of view, because of course there's some potential that such tools also lead to overblocking, or that they harm the constitutional right of free speech. So our study wants to shed some light on these user perceptions. We want to find out how users perceive different AI interventions on different social media platforms. Therefore, in spring 2022, we conducted an online survey with roughly 1,700 participants from Germany, more or less representative when you work with panels from Bilendi. But yeah, we tried our best. And we presented the participants with 9 different AI interventions. Each was meant to support online discussions in one or another way. I will show them in the next slide. But all of them were kind of obviously reshaping online discussions. So in the survey, we focus on 2 dimensions roughly. The first is utility perception. So basically, do people think that AI tools actually improve online discussions? And the second one is risk perception. So in other words, if people think that AI interventions can be harmful for opinion formation. So what did we find? What you can see here are all the 9 AI interventions and the average rating by the survey users. Blue bars indicate if people think that AI would improve online discussions, and the red bars indicate that people perceive a risk for opinion formation. I will go through them one by one. So the first you can see is AI that deletes non-human accounts. And what you can see here is that most of the people think this would improve online discussions. Risk perception is kind of moderate. So non-human accounts to be deleted seems not a big problem. Detecting inappropriate posts is similar. Perceived improvement rate is quite high, and risk perception a little bit higher than in the one before, but also moderate. This changes a little bit when it's about deleting inappropriate posts, because the intervention before made just suggestion for a human moderator. So here you can see that the improvement rate is lower, and that risk perception getting higher. What is when users kind of live getting warned that he's about or she's about writing something potentially harmful? You also can see here there's a fair amount of improvement perception, but also risk perception. And now we're getting into the AI tools that are more or less problematic. For example, if an AI aims to regulate the access to online discussions in order to make them more plural, you see there's some sort of improvement perceptions, but risk perception also very close. When it comes to AI that independently responds to other users, you can also see that risk and improvement perceptions are pretty much the same. Displaying different opinions is something that is perceived, or that the improvement perception is higher than the risk perception, but in general not that high. Suggesting responses, so that an AI autonomously say, okay, you can respond to a certain comment in this or another way. There you see risk perception for the first time is higher than the improvement perception. And this also is true for visualizing opinion distribution within a discussion. Probably people are fear that kind of spiral of silence effect can appear here. So when you enter a discussion and you see, okay, AI says everything, everybody is for this or against that, people probably don't want to engage with those kind of discussions. So those are the interventions that we include in the survey. And what we did next is that we kind of group some of them together and match them with theoretical concepts, so that we came up with so-called AI for civility, AI for plurality, and AI for reciprocity. And I don't want to go into much detail about the different platforms, but want to attribute your attention to this mean values here. As you can see, civility for AI civility is perceived to be a good thing. Risk perception is moderate. When you look at plurality, you also can see that the positive attribution that AI can improve online discussions is fairly high, a little bit lower than for civility, but okay. And also risk perception is a little bit higher than before. Things are different when it comes to AI for reciprocity. Here you can see that AI that aims to foster more reciprocity between participants is judged very risky in terms of opinion formation, and also the value for improvement is the lowest. I don't think that this should be interpreted automatically in the context that people don't like reciprocity at all. They probably did not like the AI interventions that we suggested, because they were kind of very hard interferences. So maybe if you came up with other AI interventions, the evaluation would be different. But it's an interesting case that reciprocity, AI that aims to foster reciprocity, is evaluated here the lowest. But for the moment, I want to raise a more general question, which came up due to very recent publication. A study by Jungherr and Rauchfleisch suggested that it's probably not a good idea to apply AI in online context at all, because they found that people are less willing to engage in online discussions when they are moderated by AI compared to human moderators. They also find that the general perception of AI is very important for this assessment. If you have a positive attitude towards AI, your evaluation is different than when you have a negative attitude. And so the authors conclude that this can cause they call it deliberative divide, which is then moderated by trust towards AI. So they suggest that the development and the use of AI in online discussions should be address these concerns, and also maybe put and include users in the development. This is actually what we are trying to do currently in a research project that we were talking about today at the workshop. So this is something that we have to bear in mind when we're talking about the general idea, if we should apply AI in order to foster or improve online discussions in general. So I'm moving to the last perspective of the day, the ethical perspective. In the remaining 10 minutes, I want to share some thoughts on ethical implications, and this is also probably the part where I feel most uncomfortable with, because this work has mostly done by my colleague Jonas Carstens, and at this point I have to switch to the storytelling mode again, because I think this story is important to know how this paper came to the world. You all remember the band of scholars from the beginning. It came to pass that we all met in 2021 for a so-called kickoff workshop, where all teams from the 4 use cases should present their plans for the project. The beautiful professor Gerd Fove was unable to participate due to a corona infection, so it was my turn to present our use case. And the generous king, Jürgen Manchot, and his foundation made the wish that it would be beautiful if there would be cooperations between the use cases. So everybody who has done interdisciplinary research in such projects know everybody likes to have it, but it's not that easy to get it. So it was my duty to watch out for such opportunities. And I just have finished my talk very enthusiastic talk about what we are planning to do, and that we use AI to enhance online deliberation, and that the internet will be a better place when we are done with that. And as we entered the discussion, a foolhardy PhD student named Jonas raised serious concerns. He made the claim that the decision what is good talk is a very powerful one, and that norms arising from deliberative theory may discriminate groups when translated into AI. So from a philosophical perspective, norms that stem from social context, and if these are powerful, and if these translated unreflected into AI, they probably even more powerful. So Jonas got a very fair point. And after the coffee break, we decided to work on this together and fulfilled the wish of the generous king about cooperation. And this, luckily also ended up in a publication in Minds and Machines. So what did we do in this paper? When we aim to use AI to improve online conversations, to remove undemocratic or harmful speech, we kind of pre-assume that we know what is good democratic discourse. So we kind of hide behind big theories like deliberative theory, and the concept of deliberation is a very structured and reason-based way of talking. So many researchers see it as a kind of gold standard for democratic dialogue. However, this standard isn't neutral. It can favor people who already hold powerful positions or that are part of dominant social groups, but it also can discriminate social groups. For example, we know from studies that African American English is more likely to reflect toxic even as it isn't. So if we only value, or another argument is if we only value formal arguments like in the Habermasian way, we ignore other important ways of human expressions, like for example storytelling, using emotions or humor. So these styles are very common in certain communities, and especially among people with lower formal education. So this debate, if deliberation is a discriminating concept, is not entirely new. We actually knew it from the 90s, where mostly feminist authors criticized Habermas for his elitist approach. And they made the point that we should relax the concept of deliberation and also make or create space for other forms of discussion. So what we trying to do in this paper is that we revitalize this debate when we are now at the stage that AI is kind of programmed for the sake of deliberation. So what are familiar problems in the context of AI development? When we look at AI, we need to consider several problems. Probably most known is the problem of biased data. So if the training data is having biases, including, for example, stereotypes, AI will learn and repeat these patterns and probably make them even stronger. Second, there's a real lack of diversity in the AI field. Most developers come from similar backgrounds, which means that certain perspectives and life experience are not represented in the design process. A third problem is the development of AI is often very technocratic. It focuses too much on technical solutions and not enough on social questions. So existing power structures and norms aren't questioned enough. Finally, when we try to turn very complex theoretical concept into rules for machines, this can be a problem because some dimensions of this complexity are probably not represented, and so we have maybe the wrong rules established in AI algorithms. So what should we do about this? Oh, I probably missed the potential problems. Sorry. we're going here. Instead of thinking about AI as a neutral tool, we need to that just needs to be debiased. We should start seeing AI through a more social technical lens, which means that we understand how AI interacts with existing social structures and hierarchies. It's not enough to judge AI only whether the input-output seems fair. We also have to ask, how do the tool affect participants? Do they reinforce, are there inequalities that are reinforced, or do AI helps to reduce those inequalities? That's why the development of AI should happen not in isolation, but it needs to be interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary, and context-aware, involving not just the technical experts, but also people from social science, from humanities, and those who are actually affected by these systems. So finally, when we think about goals for AI in this space, we should not also only focus on rationality and civility. In this paper, we focus on rationality and civility because, as you see at the beginning, these are the mostly targeted dimensions of AI, but we also should watch out and develop more tools that target reciprocity or equality. So to wrap things up, what should we take away from these three perspectives I'm talking tonight? First of all, it is hopefully clear that AI and deliberation have become a vibrant research field. A lot is happening at the moment, from detecting toxic speech to summarizing arguments or guiding user interactions. So AI is no longer AI and deliberation is not longer a theoretical thing. It's already in place and deployed. From the review I have presented, we know that research is still very uneven. There's a strong focus on rationality and civility, which makes sense because they are important dimensions, of course, and they're kind of probably easy to measure and model. But at the same time, key elements like reciprocity and especially equality are often overlooked so far. And that's a problem because, from my point of view, these dimensions are really determine who gets heard online and who is not heard online. From a user perspective, we also saw that reactions are mixed. Some AI tools are welcomed, especially when it comes to target incivility, but others, like those that try to foster meaningful interactions, people are more hesitant. And there's some ethical layers, as we just discussed. AI is not just a neutral helper that can be fixed with a bit of debiasing. It's deeply shaped by social structures, and we should have those social structures in mind. So what to do about this? I think the main point here is that if we want AI to be truly supporting democratic dialogue, technical solutions aren't enough. We need to co-create together with researchers from different backgrounds, together with users, with civil society, and with different communities in order to make the internet a little bit less kaput. And with that, I would like to thank all of you for your attention, and I'm really looking forward to the discussion.